Along party lines, the U.S. House votes to move ahead with an impeachment inquiry. Congressman Andy Levin is here to talk about why he voted yes. On the heels of last Sunday's interview with Mayor Duggan, Detroit's Inspector General is here to talk about Make Your Date and remembering John Conyers. Today is Sunday, November 3rd, 2019, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. I'm glad you're with us. To the surprise of absolutely no one, the Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives voted to push ahead with something that has really been going on for some time, the investigation into whether President Trump should be impeached. This was a most partisan vote. The yeses were all Democrats. All of the Republicans voted no, though 2 Democrats did also go against the tide and vote no with them. But among the yeses was Michigan's Andy Levin, who described listening to the testimony of William Taylor as his most disturbing day in Congress so far. Congressman Levin is here this morning to talk about where we are. Also this morning, perhaps last week, you saw our interview with Mayor Duggan. We spent a lot of time talking about the Inspector General's report on the Make Your Date program. The IG is Ellen Ha, and she is voicing frustration with the city not taking her recommendations about the program to heart. She's here this morning to talk about it. And tomorrow, John Conyers is going to be laid to rest at Greater Grace Temple. His is a complicated legacy. More than 50 years in Congress, a lion of the civil rights movement, but a tenure that ended in controversy. How do we best remember John James Conyers, Jr.? It's all today on Flashpoint. Well, it could be next week that we actually start to get a look at the transcripts of what's been said so far in these preliminary investigations into impeachment. Right now, it's mostly been committees who've heard it, and that includes the Foreign Affairs Committee, and that means it includes Michigan Congressman Andy Levin from Michigan's 9th District, who's my guest again on Flashpoint. Good to have you back, Congressman.
Thanks, Devin. It's great to be with you.
You were in there for the testimony of Bill Taylor,
yes.
The highest-ranking diplomat that the U.S. has had in Ukraine, and you came out and said it was your most troubling day in Congress thus far. Why?
Well, Ambassador Taylor came in there, and who knew? But, it turns out he's one of these people who takes very meticulous notes of all of his work, his meetings, his calls. And he came in and just gave a first-person devastating portrait of a president of the United States, discounting our national security in our relations with another country, and instead trying to advance his own political interests going towards the 2020 election. It was, forget about Democrats and Republicans or political parties. I mean, this is basically our democracy at stake. Whether a president is carrying out the national interests of the United States, or whether he's in our relations with a foreign government, using whether another president can meet with him, using military assistance that Congress had already appropriated for that country to try to dig up dirt on his political opponents.
It seems clear to you.
Yes.
The other side, it seems just as clear. My hunch is you could all pass lie detector tests about how you feel about this. And yet, when the vote is taken, it is almost exactly along party lines. 2 Democrats who went against the tide and stayed on the Republican side and voted against it. But
and then our own Justin Amash, who's now an independent voting for it. Right.
But is the whole process damaged by it looking this partisan?
Number one, we don't have a choice because we have to carry out our oath under the Constitution to uphold our democracy, to hold everyone accountable under the law. I actually don't think it's going to end up being this partisan. I might be wrong, but when I talk to my Republican colleagues privately, not many of them defend the actions of the President of the United States. In public, they talk about this process, and, for all this time they were saying, there's been no vote, this is illegitimate. Well, we just voted and set up the rules for the next part, the public part of the impeachment inquiry. But here's the thing. I think the House of Representatives is going to impeach the President of the United States, which means indict him, sort of, in a way.
Right.
And then it will send it to the Senate for trial to decide not whether to
Where if it
convict him
remains
or,
as partisan, he remains in office.
He would remain
certainly.
in office. But what I'm saying to you right here on a Sunday morning is, I think those Republican senators, when faced with the overwhelming case we're going to make that the president violated our national security, that he violated his oath of office by using taxpayer money and our diplomats for his own personal political ends, I'm not so sure those Republican senators are going to vote to leave him in office.
When the Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy took to the floor and said, look, we have an election a year from now.
Yes.
Why don't we leave this in the hands of the American people? Why isn't he right about that?
Well, I'm happy for the American people to decide on who should be president when they vote on November 3rd, 2020. If he's still in office, I think the American people will choose someone else. But in any event, the Constitution doesn't say wait around if someone, I mean, if we think that a president of the United States has committed impeachable offenses, I don't really see that we're supposed to say, oh, well, we'll just let it slide. We're doing this for future generations, Devin. What is the standard for any future president? Are they above the law?
Well, I understand the political purity that or actually not the unpolitical purity
right.
that you want to see in there, but that we have seen. Wasn't it damaging for Adam Schiff to kind of do what I think he described as a parody of the way the president acted? But his comments going into that first open hearing, where he took great liberty with what was actually said on the phone call, isn't that kind of thing sort of damaging to the process too? I mean, I'm not sure Democrats have been above reproach, have they?
Well, I didn't actually see this thing. I have seen Adam Schiff in action in these depositions. I've seen him in action leading the Intelligence Committee, and I think he's been, in general, very sober and very serious. So I may have missed this one thing. I don't see all the TV, I'm afraid, but he has been so respectful. I just want all of the viewers to realize, every one of these depositions we've held, right? The Republicans are there, the Democrats are there. Unlimited time for both sides to ask questions. We do an hour, they do an hour. They have full rights. We're making complete transcripts. All of this, besides what might need to be redacted for national security purposes, will all be out there for the American people to see in the light of day. So none of this is going to be hidden. It's all going to come out.
The point that the Republicans go to again and again was that Joe Biden's son and his involvement and the quid pro quo that they seem to believe that Joe Biden laid out, either fire this prosecutor or you don't get the aid that you want either, that it's apples and apples, that we're watching the same kind of thing, and that it wasn't a very good look for Hunter Biden to be on the son of of an American vice president to be on these international boards. Do they have a point?
They have no point in the following sense. On the last thing you said, I'd be all for setting up a rule that says the kids of sitting Congress people or presidents, vice presidents shouldn't be on foreign boards. I'd be fine with that, but it was perfectly legal when he did it, or it is legal today. But the main point you made, that there was some quid pro quo from Vice President Biden, that is a completely debunked conspiracy theory that in our classified briefings, in our public briefings, no legitimate law enforcement person has ever given any credence to that.
It's not coming up.
Right? It's totally not credible. So I need you almost to say it.
No,
honestly, there's no evidence.
It was very different. It was President Obama's policy, and that of it was a bipartisan plea in Washington at the time and all over Europe to get rid of this corrupt prosecutor.
Right, and not only that, I mean, Ambassador Yovanovitch, who Trump removed, was seen as a champion of getting rid of corruption in Ukraine by everybody across Republicans and Democrats and people, our allies abroad. and Trump removed her because Giuliani didn't think she was carrying out Trump's personal interests.
While we're on the cast of characters, so 2 days after Bill Taylor gave the testimony that you found so damning, Tim Morrison, a White House advisor, came in and basically largely backed up what Taylor said this is exactly what was said, but he didn't take it as being illegal or improper. Is this all going to come down to semantics?
No. This, Mr. Morrison is a appointee of the president. He went in there and saw the president doing something that he found so alarming that he was part of the group that alerted the legal folks in the National Security Council, and they thought it was so damning that they moved where all the president's conversations are with other leaders on one server into this hyper secure national security server that it's supposed to be about like nuclear secrets, war plans, very secure things. They moved it because the president said something that was totally inappropriate. This, with all due respect to Mr. Morrison, the judgment here is for our elected representatives. Our representatives and our senators to decide, and we're going to have to decide whether it's okay for a president to use the relationship with another country for his own personal ends.
I wanted to make sure we got to one more topic this morning, and that's the trade war.
Wait, can I say something really quickly?
Okay.
This is a Detroit thing, Devin. We have a huge Ukrainian-American population here. They happen to be centered in the 9th District of Warren, but they're all over this region, right? Let's not forget that. What are we talking about here? Russia invaded Ukraine. They are inside Ukraine prosecuting a war against a sovereign state. So this isn't just, the president. This is our real national security at stake. And the most profound thing has been to see a parade of career people come through and say they don't care about Democrats and Republicans. Their job is just to protect the national security of the United States, and that's what's being violated.
I'll have to leave whether Barack Obama did enough about Russia's incursion there for another conversation.
It's a good point. No, it's a fair point.
Quickly, I wanted to get to, you wrote a piece this past week about the trade war, which is not getting near as much attention now that we're all focused on this.
Right.
But it still is having an acute impact on Michigan.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we now see that less percentage of the U.S. GDP is coming from manufacturing than any time in 70 years. That's directly because of Donald Trump's scattershot, trade war against our allies, our enemies, anybody. And we need a coherent trade policy to protect good jobs in Michigan. What he's doing is not it.
Which we're not discussing very much, again, is this very important
we should talk. Let's talk about it more.
We will next
come
time.
Back. Yes.
I really appreciate you being here. I know you're on your way to Israel and Palestine.
Yes.
But thanks for making the stop this morning. Back with more on Flashpoint right after this.
DTE Energy wants to help you build Michigan's future. Whether your business is large, small, or in between, a DTE expert can partner with you to suggest new technologies and incentives to help you save money. Money you can use to create jobs and invest in the future. Because when your business thrives, Michigan does too. DTE Energy.
You know it's coming, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Insulate before it's too late.
With Michigan winter being so unpredictable, you can't afford to put off insulating your home another winter. Call Ace & Sons today.
Are you looking to save money on your mortgage or lower your payment? Well, now could be the time. With rates at their lowest point of the year, call 248-308-5000, or you can chat with us online at davidhallmortgage.com.
Delta Dental of Michigan is building brighter futures in Metro Detroit by supporting teachers, by investing in neighborhoods, by giving back day in and day out so we can all enjoy healthy, smart, vibrant communities. Learn about Delta Dental of Michigan and the work we're doing in your neighborhood at deltadentalmi.com.
Local 4 News at 5 and 6. Detroit's moments are here.
6-month investigation, and the Office of Inspector General found we violated no ordinances, no policies, no rules, no conflict of interest provision, and no money misspent. Normally, a City of Detroit administration gets a 6-month investigation with no rules broken and no money misspent is a positive.
Now, that was Mayor Duggan on last Sunday's Flashpoint broadcast. That interview came, of course, after the report by the Inspector General's office on the Make Your Date controversy, but it was before we were able to read Ellen Ha, the Inspector General's own take on the way that her report had been received by the administration. And the Inspector General for the City of Detroit, Ellen Ha, is my guest this morning on Detroit. Ellen, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
I think you take issue with the characterization that the mayor just described there.
Yes, actually, the summary that he provided to you that morning pertains to Make Your Date. So with respect to our findings on Make Your Date, we said he did not violate any policies or procedures or any laws when he unilaterally selected Make Your Date program in the city's effort to reduce infant mortality. What we had issues about that was that he made the decision unilaterally that it was not transparent and open. So we had issues with the method by which the program was chosen. With respect to deleted emails, we did not review any policies or retention schedules or the law pertaining to deleted emails, because there's another agency that is currently investigating this from a legal perspective.
The Attorney General's office.
Yes.
But you did find that the deletion of those emails did amount to an abuse of authority on Alexis Wiley's part, and that you recommended that she be disciplined. I said it was hard to miss the frustration in your column regarding all of this, because you also recently sort of had a number of recommendations regarding the Police Board of Commissioners that were also roundly ignored. Your office was kind of created out of the wreckage of the Kwame Kilpatrick crash in 2012. This was supposed to be, creating this Inspector General's office, supposed to be a bulwark against corruption.
Yes.
Did we create it the right way? Have we done that?
I believe we have, we meaning the City of Detroit. But, you know, we are relatively a new office, so there's going to be some growing pains. And we've learned a lot of things that we did not know until the office was established. We have tremendous authority compared to other Inspector General's offices in the rest of the country, in that we can debar companies up to 20 years. The federal government, their limit is 5 years. So
for companies that have behaved inappropriately or unethically with the city.
Yes.
But your office doesn't have teeth to enforce the recommendations that you made, for instance, discipline on city employees in the mayor's office.
That's right. So we are, as the office, currently talking about how we can put some teeth into that portion of our authority in the charter. So we are looking into maybe perhaps amending it or adding some other languages where we could make recommendations, and the recommendations have to be considered a little bit more firmly than it has been.
Well, out of this entire Make Your Date then controversy, what left you the most concerned?
So of the two findings, we made two key findings. One was the Make Your Date selection. We did not find that that was open and transparent. However, because no regulations or policies or procedures were violated or any laws were violated, it did not rise to the level of abuse of authority.
Does that say something about the laws that are in place then?
Well, that's why we recommended that the mayor and his administration look into perhaps establishing a policy and procedure in terms where nonprofit organization can pair with city programs in the mayoral initiatives.
You made it a point to say that, and the mayor has basically refused to talk about his personal life, his personal relationship with Dr. Hassan. You said that that did not weigh into your thinking. But public officials have to worry about two kinds of impropriety: actual impropriety and the appearance of impropriety.
Yes.
Wasn't that relationship what led to the appearance of impropriety and a lot of concerns that got your office involved in the first place?
Actually, it wasn't the fact that the allegations were made between his relationship, whatever, if any, between the mayor and Dr. Hassan, but it was the way in which he selected the program. And that was what we were focusing on. And I'm a firm believer that, as the mayor had said, that even though you are an elected official and most of your life as an elected official, you live in a fishbowl,
Yep.
but behind closed doors, between your families and friends, you should be able to have a personal life.
Privacy. Lastly, the mayor has said that he believes that Alexis Wiley and the other employees that were involved in the email portion of this need is training. That's not what you recommended. Is that a satisfactory answer to you?
Yes, absolutely. So I wrote that op-ed opinion for two purposes. One, for people to see why our office was created. Mm-hmm. And in light of the city of Detroit's history and in light of the fact how our office was created and why it was created, we felt that it was important that the public understand that we can clean up our own mess, that we can identify our own mess, and we don't need the state to come in and dictate what the city of Detroit should do, or the feds to walk in and dictate what the city of Detroit can do. We can self-govern, and we can self-govern with honesty and integrity. And we believed that receiving a training was not an appropriate discipline for the deletion of emails.
Thanks very much. Well, we'll see what the Attorney General's office still has to say about all this as they continue their part of the investigation, so the state may end up weighing in on city business. Ellen Ha, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you bet. We'll be back with more in just a minute. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.
Have you or a loved one served in the military, suffering from anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder? The Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network has a veteran navigator that can get you and your family the services you need, whether it's employment assistance, benefits, housing, or counseling. Contact the Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network, your link to holistic healthcare. Here to talk, here to help 24/7, 800-241-4949.
The region is on the rise. Project after project, building, growing, innovating. We're building the future right now. Hard work matters here. IBEW Local 58 electricians and NECA signatory contractors bring commitment, pride, expertise, and passion to every job. It's our code of excellence. One vision, one team, one mission. To build the very best Michigan for all of us. Put us to work for you. The best contractors, the best electricians, period.
Looking for a whole new way to play? Then take a look at Fast Cash, the new instant win games from the Michigan Lottery. Fast Cash offers cash prizes you can win on the spot, plus big progressive jackpots that grow all day long and can be won at any time. Games print right from the lottery terminal, and the prizes never sell out. There are lots of new games and some of your favorites, so give them a try. Instant wins, progressive jackpots. Fast Cash checks all the boxes. Fast Cash, new from the Michigan Lottery.
Later today, over at the Wright Museum, visitation will continue for those wishing to pay their respects to Congressman John Conyers, who passed away, and then the funeral will be held at Greater Grace tomorrow. But how do we remember this complicated figure in Detroit and Michigan political life? Mario Morrow, one of the founding family members of the Flashpoint family, back with us this morning.
Thank you.
Mario, you've been following politics in Michigan forever. He really had such a unique place on the Michigan landscape.
He did, and also
and the nation's landscape, right?
Nationally,
Yes.
Nationally and internationally. And I was just telling my son on the way over, more people recognized and respected John Conyers outside of Detroit, outside the state of Michigan, than inside, because he was like a rock star when he would go to places like L.A., Atlanta, Miami. A legend, a living legend at the time, and just people would just gravitate towards him. Just well respected man.
It's kind of hard, really, to put us back into the mindset of understanding what it was like for a black man to go to Congress in 1967, I believe is when he went. 4 days after Martin Luther King was assassinated, he was putting forth the Martin Luther King holiday. It took 20 years to get it through, but that's the kind of attachment to history that he had.
Yes, and not just the Martin Luther King holiday, but the Civil Rights Voting Act, the equalization, women, and all minorities. John Conyers worked tirelessly day and night and didn't really care about himself as it relates to what the history would have him in the books afterwards, but he just did everything he could for the common man, black, white, brown, yellow, whatever the case may be.
The sad thing, of course, is that his career ended in such controversy, and I wonder how we sort of reconcile these two men. We see this with a lot of people who got caught up in the #MeToo movement. I'm not sure Matt Lauer is going to be remembered for dominating morning television as long as he did, as much as he's going to be remembered for how it ended. Do you fear that's how it is for John Conyers?
Well, to some degree, but we know in the African American community that black folks are more forgiving than any other cultural or racial group. And we loved and cherished John Conyers. We all make mistakes, and none of us live in glass houses where we can throw bricks and not anything shatter. We make mistakes, and he did the right thing, I believe, by resigning and stepping away and not causing this long, drawn-out process that we see in current times with other individuals. But I think that to some degree, history will lay their wreath on him in a very positive way. And the Me Too movement situation that John Conyers got caught up in will be one of those little specks of negativity.
Also,
that
his
won't go
marriage
wrong.
to Monica, who ended up, going to prison for taking a bribe, that sort of almost, it has to end up affecting your own legacy in a way, too.
I think it affected him to some degree. However, he stood by his woman.
He did.
And did comfort her when she needed comforting, and I think that she stood by him. And that shows, we see that a lot more in today's society, where men and women who love each other, who stay into their relationships, tend to do it in a very dignified way.
Thanks for the remembrances, Mauro. Good to have you back at the Flashpoint table again. John Conyers' funeral coming up tomorrow afternoon at Greater Grace Temple. Meet the Press coming up next. Have a great week. We'll see you next time right back here for Flashpoint.